My wife ended our pregnancy because of her affair, so I moved on with her sister. My name is Luyu. My wife, Jang Nuanyuan, and I were childhood sweethearts, basically engaged since we were kids. But in the 3rd year of our marriage, she hired her college crush to be her personal assistant. I told her to fire him, but she refused. Things got icy between us. After more than half a year of this, my mother became terminally ill. Her dying wish was to see Jang Nuanyuan pregnant with our child, so I went to my wife to make peace. She thought about it for a second, then agreed. A month later, she was pregnant. But just as my mother was fading, wanting one last look at her belly, I got the news. Jang Nuanyuan had miscarried after donating blood to her crush. I had another child, though, from outside our marriage. At my mother's funeral, the mood was heavy. People behind me were giving me strange looks, and I knew why. Standing where my wife, Jang Nuanyuan, should have been was my mistress, Han Wen-jing. She was holding a baby. She was the one seeing my mother off on her final journey. After the funeral, Jang Nuanyuan's father stopped me. "Luyu," he said. "I kept my mouth shut because it was your mother's funeral. But what is this? Bringing your mistress and your illegitimate child here? Do you have any idea what this does to our companies?" He was furious, not because I cheated, but because I had paraded Han Wenjing around as my family's daughter-in-law. It sent a clear signal that the lady of the Liu house was about to change. I leaned back on the sofa, completely relaxed. "Uncle Jang," I said, "I didn't have a choice. Your daughter lost our baby for that pretty boy, and is still laid up in the hospital. I couldn't let my mother die without her peace of mind, could I? Besides, do you really think people wouldn't talk if your daughter was a no-show?" His face went pale. He knew about the assistant his daughter kept around. He'd even warned her about it. But Jang Nuanyuan was stubborn and always did what she wanted. Since I hadn't made a big deal about it, he never looked into it further. After all, affairs are common in our world. You can't find one truly faithful couple in 10. But this time she'd gone too far, losing our child to donate blood for some guy on her payroll. Not only that, her stubbornness made her miss my mother's last moments. The fact that I called him uncle instead of dad showed him how angry I really was, but he still had to do damage control. He chose his next words carefully, his tone much softer now. "Look, I know Nuanyuan messed up badly this time. But you brought your mistress to her mother-in-law's funeral. You embarrassed her badly too. For my sake, can you just forgive her this once? Our families and companies are too intertwined. A divorce would be a huge loss for both of us." I didn't say a word. I just pulled a stack of photos from my bag and laid them on the table in front of him. His expression instantly darkened as he looked at the pictures of the young girls. He recognized a few of them as his own illegitimate daughters. The ones he didn't recognize, he figured, were his daughters too. "Luyu, what is the meaning of this?" I gave a small laugh. "You've misunderstood me, Uncle Jang." Seeing the murderous look in his eyes, I knew what he was thinking. I wasn't stupid enough to threaten him with his other daughters. He and his wife had always had their own separate lives. As long as Jang Nuanyuan got the inheritance, her mother wouldn't care about these photos. His face relaxed a bit. Threatening him with his other daughters would be like throwing mud. It wouldn't stick, but it would make a mess. Luckily, I wasn't that dumb. "Then what do you want?" he asked. "The alliance between our families continues," I said. "Just with a different bride." He understood immediately. I would still marry into the Jang family, but it would be one of his illegitimate daughters, not Jang Nuanyuan. The company was still his. As long as I married one of his daughters, it didn't really matter which one. The only people who'd object would be Jang Nuanyuan and her mother, and they didn't have enough shares to matter. As long as I was on his side, they couldn't make much noise. Still, given our history, he had to ask, "Are you really giving up on Nuanyuan?" I nodded. "I've made my decision. Our family's power was equal, our business interests deeply connected. Any trouble between us would cost us both a fortune. As for me taking over his company, impossible. Father Jang ran that ship himself. A young fox like me would be lucky not to get outsmarted by an old one like him." His expression shifted several times. After a moment, he finally asked, "Which one do you have your eye on?" "Let's go with this one," I said, pointing to a photo. "If it doesn't work out, we can always swap." You little bastard, he muttered, glancing at the photo. The girl in the picture was walking across a college campus, her smile bright and full of life. After talking a bit longer, I drove over to Han Wenjing's place. When she saw me, she moved like she'd done it 1,000 times, taking my coat and hanging it up. I noticed it was just her. Where's the nanny? She gave me a sly smile. I knew you were coming, so I gave her the day off. I walked into the nursery. Little Bao was in his crib, playing with a toy. He grinned the second he saw me, his round eyes turning into tiny crescent moons. As I was playing with him, I felt a soft touch from behind. I turned and pulled Han Wenjing into a hug, resting my forehead against hers. It must be hard on you taking care of him. It's not hard at all, she whispered. As long as you visit more often. We held each other for a moment before I led her into the bedroom. The next morning, all hell broke loose. Zhang Nuanyuan stormed into the conference room, absolutely furious. The blood donation and miscarriage had left her looking incredibly frail, but her face was flushed with anger. My assistant rushed to apologize. President Liu, the Madam President, insisted on coming up. I couldn't stop her. It's fine, I said, waving him off. We weren't divorced yet. He couldn't exactly throw her out. No need to punish an employee for it. Let's adjourn for now, I told the others in the room, motioning for them to leave. Once we were alone, she exploded. Liu, you have some nerve. Not only are you keeping a mistress, but you have a secret child with her. I shot back, my face a mask of indifference. So what? You keep a boy toy on the side, so why can't I find someone who actually connects with me? Don't be a hypocrite. She slammed her hand on the table. How many times do I have to tell you? There's nothing going on between me and Xiao Wenbin. I just felt sorry for him and wanted to help him. I sneered. Zhang Nuanyuan, do you even believe that yourself? Nothing going on? You lost our baby donating blood for him. This attitude of yours, doing whatever you want but refusing to admit it, it's pathetic. She got defensive. Xiao Wenbin was in the hospital because he protected me in a car accident. Was I supposed to just let him die? There is nothing between us. You're just being petty. And another thing, what about your mistress? A year ago, you started disappearing for days at a time. You were with her, weren't you? The more she talked, the angrier she got, as if my cheating was the only unforgivable sin here. And she was right to think that. We really were childhood sweethearts. Our families, following a national policy, each had one official child. They arranged our marriage when we were little, agreeing we'd have 2 kids, the first with my last name Liu, and the second with hers Zhang, to inherit both family businesses. Zhang Nuanyuan, too young to understand marriage, started following me everywhere, like a little shadow, after the adults told her I was the one she'd spend her life with. We were together through elementary, middle school, high school, and college. We slept together right after we turned 18. I still remember her curled up in my arms, making me promise over and over that I would never betray her. I knew she was deeply insecure. Both our parents were in arranged marriages and had their own affairs. Her father had a parade of young secretaries, some younger than she was. Her mother was the same, just with young men. They barely ever came home to see her. My family was a bit better. My mom came from a good family and stayed home to raise me. She ignored my father's flings as long as he wasn't obvious about it. And my father, for all his affairs, was careful enough never to have any illegitimate children. Zhang Nuanyuan always treated my mother like her own and saw me as her only anchor. She couldn't understand why her own mother put up with it all. She didn't want a life of separate affairs, but she didn't want to be lonely like my mother either. So in college, she was incredibly possessive, terrified some other girl would steal me away. That is, until Xiao Wenbin showed up. Thinking about our past, I decided to lay it all out for her one last time, just so she wouldn't bother me after the divorce. Nuanyuan, do you remember that book series, Dragon Raja? We used to read in middle school? She looked confused. I continued, there's a part in it that says it's way too easy for a guy to fall for a girl. As long as she's beautiful, he can find 1,000 reasons to fall in love at first sight. Maybe it's her energy, her intelligence, her quietness, or a moment of sadness she lets slip. Of course, all of that only works if she's beautiful to begin with. I grew up with you, but that doesn't mean I can't be attracted to other women. Han Wenjing was a senior in our college. She was stunning and exactly my type. It was easy for me to fall for her. By that same logic, I wasn't mad when I found out you had a thing for Xiao Wenbin in college. No one is attracted to only one person their entire life. Xiao Wenbin was a senior in her department. The first time I heard his name was when she got obsessed with those campus romance novels. She told me he looked just like the main character in one of them and then described the plot to me. A poor but handsome guy falls for a rich girl but keeps it a secret because he feels unworthy. After the rich girl gets hurt by her scumbag childhood sweetheart, the poor guy makes it big with a startup, and they have a whirlwind marriage where he spoils her rotten. And the scumbag ex? He spends the rest of his life in regret. I knew she was trying to send me a message. Love me right or you'll be sorry. At the time I just laughed and patted her head. I didn't tell her that novels are fantasies. In the real world, guys who make it big either have connections or marry into them. Starting from nothing is next to impossible. It was just a small thing, but then she and Xiao Wenbin joined the same research group, and I started hearing his name more and more. She'd tell me things he told her. How he was from a poor village, the hope of his family, how his sister worked herself to the bone to pay his tuition. It was all bullshit. If he had time for that sob story, he could have worked another part-time job. Eventually, I got tired of hearing it, and realized she had real feelings for him. So I told her, if you like him that much, you can keep him as a boy toy when we're married. After that, she never said his name to me again. I checked up on them occasionally, and when it seemed like nothing was happening, I let it go. I just never expected him to pop up again years later. The moment I saw him, I knew he was planning to live off her. I've told you 1,000 times, there's nothing between me and Xiao Wenbin. I didn't like him then and I don't like him now. I just see his family is poor and I want to help. She explained, her voice shrill like she was the one being wronged. He's a grown man. Is he starving? Is someone in his family dying? Why does he need your pity? Forget it. That doesn't even matter. I sighed, my tone turning serious. After he joined your company, you made him your assistant. I told you to fire him and you refused. I gave you a chance, Nuanyuan. I don't care if you have feelings for someone else, but you shouldn't have kept him right by your side. Her already pale face went ghostly white. Seeing her like that, I felt a sharp, satisfying surge of revenge. Do you know when I got together with Han Wenjing? I said harshly. The very day you refused to fire him. That same day I had someone find her. I stayed at her place that night. Really, I should thank you. You gave me the perfect excuse to cheat with a clear conscience. You bastard. Her composure finally shattered. You're just making excuses for being a cheater. I looked at her coldly. Think what you want. I told you before we got married. People in our world face way more temptation than normal people. If you couldn't be faithful, you should have just been honest. As long as you gave me a child, we could have gone our separate ways and stayed friends. But look what you did. You kept your college crush as an assistant, lost our baby for him, and missed my mother's deathbed. All while claiming you're innocent. What are you trying to do? Have it all? If so, then you are truly shameless. You want to have your cake and eat it too. She was completely stunned by my words. After a long silence, she finally spoke. Fine. I'll fire Xiao Wenbin. And you get rid of that woman, Han Wenjing. As for the child, I won't hold it against you. I'll give her enough money to disappear forever. Let's just start over. Please, husband. She bit her lip, her eyes filling with tears, as if she were the victim. Impossible, I said flatly. Why? That woman is just after your money. Why else would she be your mistress? Are you really going to choose a whore over me? Slap. The sound echoed in the room. Watch your mouth. Stunned, Jiang Nuanyuan clutched her cheek, her eyes red as she stared at me. There was something I'd never told anyone about Han Wenjing. Back in college, my mom was in the hospital once. I saw Han Wenjing in the lobby and followed her upstairs. Her mother was a patient there too, but while my mom had a private VIP room, hers was in a crowded hallway on N4 drip. I asked a doctor and learned her family couldn't afford the surgery she needed. I was young and on an impulse I paid for it, making sure she never knew it was me. The day I went to find her recently, I had the hospital pull those old payment records. After she thanked me, I offered to support her long term. She was surprised but not angry. After thinking for a moment, she agreed. In the year we've been together, she's been gentle and obedient, never asking me for anything. In bed, she was a world away from Jiang Nuanyuan's conservative, motionless style. Han Wenjing was willing to try anything. Over time she earned a real place in my heart. Hearing Jiang Nuanyuan curse her made me furious. I rubbed the bridge of my nose. Don't you forget what you did to my mother. My mom practically raised you. All she wanted was to see you one last time before she died. And where were you? Losing our baby after giving blood to your pretty boy. Are you even human? The truth is, my mother died without any regrets. A mother's greatest wish is for her son to be happy. Her affection for Jiang Nuanyuan was just an extension of her love for me. Once she knew I could live well without her, she was at peace. Besides, seeing her grandson, little Bao, already born, meant more than a 3-month pregnancy. She passed away with a smile. But that didn't change what Jiang Nuanyuan did. My mother died peacefully because I, her son, am capable. I didn't pin all my hopes on one woman. But my wife still deserved to be condemned. My mother was so good to her. And this shameless woman almost let her die with regrets. She needed to feel guilty. It would also keep her from bothering Han Wenjing. Still, I couldn't be too careless. I decided to move Han Wenjing and little Bao to a new place with bodyguards. After our talk, I didn't care that she wanted to keep arguing. I had 2 female employees escort her out. Then I had my lawyer contact her father about the divorce. With his influence, getting her to sign wouldn't be a problem. Whether their family fell apart over it was none of my business. A week later, Father Jiang showed up with the signed divorce agreement. With him was a young woman, no, a girl. He didn't look happy. He had fresh scratch marks on his face, probably from his wife. He gave me a sour look. This is my daughter, Jiang Yaoyao. You two should get acquainted. After he left, I looked at the girl. My sources said she was 19, a college freshman, the prettiest of his illegitimate daughters, and had never had a boyfriend. Since this was a marriage of convenience, I figured I might as well enjoy it. To make sure she knew her place, I decided to give her a little warning. I put on a stern face. Your father told you why you're here, I assume. Jiang Yaoyao nodded, her bright eyes locked on me. He told me you want to marry me. Don't worry, I'll be obedient. And I'm clean. You can inspect the goods first if you want. Now I was the one who was surprised. The girl was sharp. A warning was clearly unnecessary, but I was definitely interested in her offer. So I didn't hesitate. I pulled her upstairs. A few days later, Xiao Wenbin ambushed me. My driver was at a red light when he appeared out of nowhere, pounding on the car window. His face was bruised up. I'd heard Father Jiang's men had beaten him to make Jiang Nuanyuan sign the divorce papers. I was surprised he still had the guts to find me. Honestly, before the miscarriage, I never gave him a second thought. In our world, you don't mess with your partner's side pieces unless they're flaunted in your face. But since he cost me my child, I was curious to hear what he had to say. In a coffee shop, we sat across from each other. After my bodyguards patted him down for weapons, I started the conversation. It's not that I'm paranoid, but a friend of mine has been obsessed with these crazy web novels lately, and keeps telling me stories that make me a little jumpy. As soon as he sat down, he blurted out, Mr. Liu, President Jiang has always loved you. I was just a tool she used to get your attention. Oh, I said, a half smile on my face. Go on. A spark lit up in his eyes. When she made me her assistant, she told me you were always busy with work and that she felt neglected. She wanted to use me to make you jealous, to get you to pay more attention to her. She specifically told me not to get any ideas. I'm here to explain everything so you can forgive her. I thought about it. I had been busy after we got married, often coming home too tired for anything but sleep. It was a failure on my part as a husband, even if I was trying to secure my position in the company. But even if what he said was true, I couldn't forgive her. There are a million ways to solve a problem. She could have talked to me, yelled at me, thrown a fit. After 20 years together, I could have handled that. But she chose the one method I could never accept. Provoking the person you love by getting close to another man? You'd have to be crazy to think that's a good idea. And I didn't believe him anyway. Before I could say anything, Jiang Nuanyuan rushed in. Brother Liu, Xiao Wenbin told you everything. You have to believe we're innocent now. Her face was tear-streaked and she looked exhausted. Brother Lou. She hadn't called me that since elementary school. I snapped back to reality. Jiang Nuanyuan, maybe that's why you hired him. But I don't believe you'd keep him around for a whole year if you didn't have other thoughts. Besides, have you ever heard the saying? Once a seed of doubt is planted, it's impossible to go back. There's no chance for us. With that, I stood up to leave. As I reached the door, a group of police officers rushed in and slapped handcuffs on Xiao Wenbin. What are you doing? Jiang Nuanyuan shrieked, trying to grab an officer. I gave my bodyguard a look, and he quickly pinned her arms behind her back. I walked over to her and looked down. I had someone look into it. That car accident you mentioned? Xiao Wenbin staged the whole thing. Probably to make you feel guilty for him. Her pupils shrank. Impossible! She screamed like a madwoman. That's impossible. Lou, come back. Explain this to me. Husband. I walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. I had done more than enough for her. I pulled out my phone and sent a message to her father. Nuanyuan seems unstable. You should probably send her abroad to recover. As for Xiao Wenbin, he cost me a child. I was never going to let him go. I had originally planned to hire a woman with AIDS to seduce him, then expose him once he was infected. But the police found out about the staged accident first. Soon enough, he'll get diagnosed with AIDS in prison. He can count himself lucky. Extra. Zhang Yao's story. I'm rich. I'm rich. Mr. Lu, no, hubby is so generous. I clutched the black card in my hand, kissing it over and over. Ignoring the sharp pain between my legs, I took a taxi to the nearest ATM to check the balance. A full 2 million. How many designer bags could I buy? No. Mom always said to buy a house first for security. Forget it, I'll buy a car. It's cool. And I can be on call for hubby whenever he wants me. I've known I was a mistress's daughter my whole life. Whenever my father came to visit my mom, she'd send me out to play. As she got older, he came around less and less. She told me not to be useless like her, abandoned when you get old. She said I had to find a rich man and land the role of the official wife. I was different from her. My dad was still the chairman of a major company, and I was prettier. If I found some rich heir who wasn't too bright, I could use my dad's name to seal the deal. My mom taught me every trick she knew. When I got to college, I was just about to find some sim to practice on when a massive surprise landed in my lap. My father, who I hadn't seen in nearly 10 years, showed up and said he wanted to introduce me to a husband. I was terrified he was going to marry me off to some old, ugly man. But with his bodyguard standing there, I didn't dare say no. When I found out the guy was the CEO of the Lu Group and only 28, I was floored. In my group chats, girls my age were serving guys who were 48 and bragging about it. So I listened to my dad's story. It turned out my half-sister had been keeping a boy toy, had an abortion for him, and got sent packing. Because of a business deal, her fiancé demanded a replacement, and I was the lucky one chosen. If I could keep him happy, I could live my dream. The first time I saw Liu, I couldn't take my eyes off him. Rich and handsome. He was everything I ever wanted. All my hesitation disappeared. I was not letting him fall into the hands of one of my other sisters. I decided to go all in and offer him the only valuable thing I had. My virginity. After we were done, he said, "You're pretty good." And it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. I took the money he gave me and immediately called my mom to share the good news. We cried tears of joy. Since I was still 2.5 years from being old enough to legally marry, my mom started teaching me all her best-kept secrets, determined to help me hold on to this man's heart. From that day on, I spent all my free time bonding with my husband. And I found out something surprising. For a man 9 years older than me, he was surprisingly innocent. When I crawled under his office desk, he actually blushed. I also found out he only had one mistress, unlike my scumbag father. But when I learned that mistress already had his son, I started to panic again. To make sure my 2 million a month allowance didn't get cut off, I did everything I could to get pregnant. Then I got anxious again, worried I'd lose his interest while I was pregnant, especially since we weren't legally married. I needed help. My first thought was my mom. Not too old. Pass. My second thought was my best friend. We have different looks but the same goals. I figured if the price was right, she'd be convinced. Besides, her last name isn't Jiang, so she can't steal my position. You treat me like your best friend, but you want to use me as a side piece? I only get $2 million a month and I have to give $500,000 to my mom. You want $500,000 too? That's price gouging. You said it's your first time? Fine, let my husband give you a 1-month trial. Ah, hubby is the best. He raised my allowance to $5 million a month. I love you so much. Damn it. The first kid is a girl. I have to try for a son. Finally. Thank you, bestie, for your service. Extra. Han Wenjing's story. It was always just me and my mom. I finally made it to my junior year of college and was about to start working. Life was getting better. Then my mom got sick. Mid-stage cancer, the kind of disease you can't afford to get when you're poor. During the day, I worked part-time jobs for pennies, and at night, I had to convince my mother not to give up hope. The pressure was suffocating. Faced with millions in medical bills, I was even ready to sell myself, but I couldn't get nearly enough. Just when I had hit rock bottom, the hospital called. A kind person had paid for her surgery in full, and even arranged a private room. The sudden good news made me burst into tears. My mother was saved. I asked the hospital who it was, but they wouldn't tell me. I knew there was no such thing as a free lunch. I had a feeling that one day this benefactor would show up to collect. But as long as my mother was alive, I didn't care. I waited for almost 7 years. I never dated anyone. I was worried my benefactor would want my body, and I didn't want to betray a future partner. Finally, he came. It turned out to be a guy who was a few years behind me in college. He told me his mother was dying and that his wife was involved with someone else. He begged me to have a child for him. I didn't know if he was telling the truth, but I was already prepared to repay the kindness, so I didn't refuse. My only condition was that I could see my child after it was born. When he found out it was my first time, I saw the delight in his eyes. He changed his mind. He told me he would give me anything I wanted except marriage. He wanted me to stay with him. I didn't argue. I knew for a rich man like him, asking for my opinion was just a formality. Besides, it was better than marrying someone else and living in constant fear. At least this way I could watch my child grow up. After our son was born, he took me to see his mother one last time. The old woman passed away with a smile on her face. Then I stood in for his wife at the funeral. Later, he moved me to a bigger house and hired a nanny. With his blessing, I went back to work and started saving the money he gave me. I always thought he would get tired of me eventually and I needed a plan for my future, and my sons. But he never left. Unexpectedly, I stayed with him for a lifetime, so long that I started to think of him as my husband. I had another son and a daughter with him. When he turned 60, he handed his massive business empire over to our eldest son. It was only then that I truly believed he had loved me all along. Thanks for watching. Please click the bell icon if you like our stories.